Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Jections. We've got a couple of good W's to talk through today. Finally, some good news. So, Jay is out. He's busy watching Milan play Napoli right now. So, we've got the American contingent with us. We've got Sterling, Irfan, and Miko. Miko, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Good feelings after a convincing win. Okay.
Irfan, what's going on, man?
Doing well. Miko's so happy, he didn't even call you out for calling him an American. So I was like, this is good stuff. Excellent stuff. No, I'm doing well. Happy we got the win, and happy that my boy Aslani contributed to that win. So I'm in a good spot.
Sterling, thanks for helping us out here, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Happy to be back here for a second time. I was just telling Andrew that I'm really happy that we got this win today because I actually have my in-laws and my sister-in-law in Milan right now, and I got them tickets to this game. So if I had sent some Americans who don't watch soccer to a game and it was a 0-0, I would never hear the end of it. So thankfully, won the end.
I want. Did you give them context of the Lukaku return? Because I'm trying to imagine a couple Americans going to this game and just hearing all these deafening whistles.
Oh, trust me, I gave them plenty of context leading up to it, especially my sister-in-law. We're in a group chat with my wife, and I have been sending her just about every article that I see on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I've been sending that to her for weeks leading up to this game. So she was fully aware of the whistles and everything. They were going to try and get one if they could and bring it back, but I don't think they were able to. But yeah, they're very aware of the context.
Well, let's jump right in by talking about the goal, because I can't say enough good things about the way Thuram's playing. Just people were concerned about his ability to score when he first arrived after the preseason, and he's really put all of those concerns to bed with just high-quality finishing. So, Irfan, what did you think of the goal, and how do you feel about just the way Thuram's playing for us?
The goal was great, and Thuram has been incredible. I have to say, you're exactly right. The concerns that a lot of people had with Thuram were twofold, right? One is he didn't have a proven kind of record of consistent goal scoring. And the second thing was, whether or not he can do a lot of the little kind of things in the box that would result in him scoring goals. We knew he could facilitate fairly well. We knew he could play out on the wing and take on people. We knew he had decent speed, decent dribbling. But I think a lot of the concerns from the fans that we heard was, can this guy do some of the little things, whether it's just opening up your body a little bit, whether it's making that run to get into the right spot, whether it's finding that inch of space that you need to get a shot off. Those were the main concerns. And he's honestly put all of those to bed so quickly and I think demonstrably. He's just been such a beast for us. And even this goal, DeMarco, like I said, Aslani made a great pass that completely caught the Roma defense, off guard. And then the cross in from DeMarco was wonderful. But that run that he made, that Thuram made, the run and the strength that he showed to hold off the defender to get that shot even off. I mean, that's just pure center forward play. And that's the sort of stuff that, we never, I think a lot of fans didn't necessarily expect that he would be able to consistently deliver, but it was wonderful. He's really proven to be, I think, better than even the most, positive, optimistic fan might have thought he would be.
The flow of the game was completely downhill towards the Roma net. We just relented, or we kept trying to score. We had a crossbar in the first half off Hakan. There were numerous chances. Sterling, I know you were getting a little nervous there, wondering we might not get a goal today based on just our inability to bury one in the nets up until the Thuram goal.
Yeah, honestly, maybe I'm just a pessimist because I've been an Inter fan for too long at this point. But I started having concerns early in the first half about our lack of ability to score. I think we really dominated, obviously, the first 20 minutes, really between the 5th minute and the 20th minute. We were really dominant. We had a ton of chances. Obviously, it started off with that Çalhanoğlu hit from just outside the box there. That was off the crossbar. But we kind of just kept going strength to strength from there. But it just wasn't going in, which kind of seems to be the thing with this team sometimes. And so I was kind of just resigning myself to being like, oh man, maybe it's just going to be one of those days again. But, full credit to the team for not giving up there. Asllani came in. I'm loving that he's coming in now during more crunch situations. Whether it's Inzaghi actually trusts him or he just doesn't trust anyone who has a yellow card, I don't know. But either way, he was willing to give him another opportunity today at a crunch situation. And Asllani has just looked stronger and stronger over the last month or so with the opportunities that he's been given. And, go figure. If you give a young player opportunities, they will actually start to grow, but you have to play them first. And so luckily he's been playing a little bit more. Great ball to DeMarco. And then, Thuram is a monster. The thing that's actually surprised me the most with him is really his dribbling. He threw a couple of step overs today, and I haven't really seen him do that type of dribbling. He wins almost every 50-50 challenge with his physique. There's obviously still some things that he can work on in his game. I think that the striker type of finishes is something that we want to see more from him. He had like one header today that went over the crossbar that, you would expect a pure striker to finish. But you have to remember, he is a player who was converted from being a winger relatively recently. I'd say he's even ahead in his development, and he fits the system like a glove, combines well with Martinez. I just can't really say enough about him, and I think the goal return so far has also been surprising.
Mikko, when you were watching the match, how concerned were you that we weren't going to get a goal today, and maybe combine that with the way the match was trending in the second half with some refereeing decisions? Was there a point where you were concerned, or were you confident just given the complete lack of chances created by Roma?
Actually, I was a bit concerned. I wasn't fully certain that we will score because I have to give credit to Roma because they defended pretty well. In the first half, it was quite bad for them and good for Inter in the first 20 minutes, as said. But then it kind of tempo went down, and Roma was able to keep us at bay to some extent, at least. And even if of course, the match was total domination by us, but I think they sacrificed themselves pretty well. I'm reading these stats. They had 7 blocked shots. We couldn't get too many shots on goal, on target. We had only 3 shots on target. But even if that's pretty typical for Inter, that we don't get those shots on target for some reason. But this time I felt that Roma was simply defending at least okay, but most of the time pretty well. Because I don't know, was it a good idea to just do our regular cross fest like we did? They had tall defenders and Cristante there, and we couldn't connect those crosses like those aerial crosses. And the low cross was the one for the goal, and I think we should go for the those low crosses much more than those higher ones, because I don't see Lautaro or Thuram being exceptional aerial players, even if they have good headers, but especially against the teams like Roma, we should do it differently. But luckily this time we were how do you say? We were patient, and it paid off. I was a bit worried. Inzaghi wasn't doing a lot of changes in our game, and he was just waiting till we scored, and it was what was it, 81st minute before he did any major changes, I think. And even then it was just was it just 1-for-1? Of course the system remained the same, so I gotta say I was a bit worried about our game, because it didn't look like we were just eventually gonna overrun them. To me, it didn't look like that.
Yeah, Pavard came off at halftime, and I think we saw that coming after he picked up a booking on. It was a stupid idea, but he also did not connect with the player's head on the overhead kick. But Pavard was also just really venturing forward. Like, did you guys see how often he was in their box in the first half? Like, I don't know if that was instructed to do so, but the fact he was subbed off at halftime kind of makes me think he was maybe going outside the game plan a little bit there.
Yeah, I did note that. I didn't think that necessarily he was going outside of the game plan. If anything, I think that this match, maybe we saw him start to adjust to our system a little bit more, because that's something that I've wanted to see a little bit more from him. I think we get more of those insertions sometimes when we have Darmian in that position, because he will overlap with Dumfries a bit more. I think Pavard is a bit more reserved, and I guess that's to be expected to a certain extent, given that Pavard is a natural center back and Darmian is a natural fullback. But I thought that today he did get into good positions. I was actually surprised that he was pulled off at halftime. I do understand why. Realistically, we didn't necessarily need him defensively in this game. Having maybe someone like Darmian who could provide a little bit more fluidity, more of those insertions into the box probably was the right move from a tactical standpoint. And then I think also, the way that Pavard plays, he does play very aggressively as well, being on the yellow card. I think Inzaghi just wanted to kind of be safe because realistically, I only really saw one way back into this match for Roma, and that was if we made a huge mistake like getting a red card or gave up a penalty or something along those lines. So I think that Inzaghi just wanted to nip that in the bud before it really became a real issue. But I was okay with Pavard's game today. Obviously the finishing could have been better, but, he is a center back at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised, even if the yellow was there. But, I don't think there was, a necessity to take him out because of the yellow. Because it wasn't like Roma was gonna threat us in a way that Pavard would get in a situations where he would get the second yellow. We dominated them so much that it was a bit weird. But typical Inzaghi in a sense.
But I wonder if this time it was also because of the ref, honestly. Like the even in the first half, I know he was much worse in the second half, but even in the first half, he was just not reliable. And he seemed like a bit of a wild card. So usually I'm pretty quick to criticize Inzaghi for his consistent pulling of anybody who gets a yellow card, regardless of the game situation in most cases. But in this case, I almost kind of got it because we weren't really defending, it's true, but with El Shaarawy and with Lukaku, the one thing that they can do is that they can try to run in behind you, or they can try to run past you, or if there's a long ball over the top or something. And so, there is, I think, the defense could be a little prone to, having to be forced to make an error. And I think Inzaghi read the game and was absent someone going off, we're going to continue to dominate them. We just can't take any risks to go a man down because then they're just going to completely shut off the game. So I don't know. I felt like maybe that was it. I agree, though. A player like Pavard, bringing him off at 45 minutes seems a little nuts. But given the game situation today, it didn't bother me as much as it sometimes does when he just pulls a player for a yellow.
Irfan, I've got to give you a little bit of grief just because Roma had maybe 1.5 legitimate goal-scoring chances in this game. The first was El Shaarawy's free kick directly into the wall, which, kind of lucky that wasn't a penalty based on it was so close to the box. But the other was a brilliant shot by your boy Cristante that just happened to be parried away by Sommer. So what do you think of that great Cristante chance?
Yeah. I thought Bonaventura played really well. I'm still convinced they're the same player, by the way. So I thought Cristante played well. I was thinking that exact same thing, Andrew. I was like, of course. The one shot that they get, the one good chance that they get is going to be by Cristante, who I've just been hating on for the last week. It was a great header, but it was also just an amazing save by Sommer as well. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, there's really two people that I can't have scoring against us. One of them obviously is Lukaku, and the other one is Cristante. That guy just does not deserve to score against us, and he scored against us way too many times before, I think.
Well, let's use that as a transition to talk about Lukaku, he didn't have a chance to make an impact on this game because Roma had no interest in winning this game. It really felt like they were playing for a draw. I don't know if Lukaku had more than 5 to 10 touches of the ball, none of them really in dangerous areas. But just with everything going on, the whistles, the buzz, Lautaro kind of ignoring him in the handshake line before the game. Do any of you have any strong Lukaku opinions you'd like to deliver?
I would just say I thought that he was okay in his touches today. I didn't think that he necessarily looked nervous on the ball or anything like that. However, he did try and play very quickly, 1-2 touch, which, not necessarily his strong suit. But I just don't think that only one team came to play today is basically what happened. I mean, realistically, Roma were sitting deep pretty much from the first minute. For a striker, it's very difficult to get into that type of match. They never had any prolonged extended periods in our final third where he could really make a difference. So I think that it's just kind of a nothing performance for Lukaku, but not even really a fault of his own. It was just the way that Roma decided to play today.
Yeah, I think that Lukaku was like typical Lukaku. Didn't do anything in the aerial balls, like lost almost all of them, and then few touches, some of them pretty good, but like it was maybe as expected, because I have to point out when you said that they were not even wanting to win the game. I'm gonna list the names they were missing. They were missing Dybala, Smalling, Renato Sanchez, Leonardo Spinazzola, and Lorenzo Pellegrini. So that's like at least four of them are like starting players.
And Mourinho, of course.
Well, yeah. So I kind of get it why they wanted to just defend and not like a risk anything, because they didn't have much in their lineup to create anything for Lukaku or El Shaarawy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was curious. I wonder if you all had a view on this. It was interesting to me, and I don't know if this is just been the case recently because of the way the matches have been going, or if this is like a concerted effort by Inzaghi, but it does seem like we've been attacking a lot more on the right side, and using Dumfries to attack a lot more than previously. It used to be that DeMarco kind of used to be our guy where we would just incessantly attack through DeMarco's side. But nowadays it does seem, and today definitely, it seemed like a lot of the attacks, if not all of them, especially in the first half, were coming on the Dumfries side. And I don't know if that's just because Dumfries is in better form, and so Inzaghi's trying to play the hot hand, or if it's just that's the way the natural game is progressing, because Barella plays the ball out through that side a lot more than maybe Mkhitaryan does. But I don't know, it's just been interesting for me to see, or maybe like all of those reps are part of the reason why Dumfries is playing so well. I just don't know. But to me, it seems like there's been a concerted effort for us to attack on that right side a lot more, making us a little bit less one-dimensional and reliant on DeMarco and Bastoni.
Yeah, I recognize that as well. And something that I kind of was thinking to myself about that, Irfan, was that I feel like Dumfries has benefited from the increased rotation since the international break. He obviously plays a lot for both Inter and for the Netherlands. However, since he came back from the break, we've been rotating him a little bit more with Darmian in that position, and he just looked really, really sharp today. And obviously, he had the beating of Zalewski. I thought that this was probably one of his best matches in recent memory for me in an Inter shirt. Not only, he's always a runner. He always gets into good positions. We know what his weaknesses are. Obviously, it's a technical aspect of his game. But I thought his dribbling today was actually fantastic. I was really impressed and really surprised by a lot of those duels that he was able to win. So I don't know if it was necessarily something having to do with a tactical switch per se, but I think that naturally when you have Barella, who I thought had a much better game today than he has had in recent memory as well, when you have that paired up with Dumfries on that side and they have the beating of Zalewski, it just meant that it just made sense to keep going back to that hot hand. And that's all, also coupled with the fact that I don't think DeMarco had a spectacular game. I think he obviously got the assist, but his form, along with Bastoni's, has in my opinion, dropped off quite a bit in recent months as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that too regarding DeMarco, that he plays a bit soft time to time. Like it's like he's not reacting all the balls correctly, and he's playing like a bit weak. And I was expecting the substitution much earlier to take him out, but luckily it didn't happen, and Inzaghi knows what he's doing. But for Dumfries, yeah, I think he's having a great time at the moment, and we should continue playing like this. That we feed him those balls so he can run and do those crosses and like create some kind of havoc there because he's such a physical presence there. Yeah, I like Dumfries these days a lot more than earlier.
Yeah, I don't want to skip ahead too far, but it really feels like we have a solid, like, set in stone starting 11 right now. Like, the 11 we rolled out there today is, I think, indisputably our best 11. And it's nice when in weeks you don't have midweek Champions League fixtures like this week. We know getting ready for Atalanta that, hey, we can roll out our best players. They'll be well rested. And, like, this is a really strong starting 11. And even just looking at the substitutes we used today, I mean, we used all 5 substitutes as usual, but we didn't rotate any of the forwards. Sanchez stayed on the bench. We didn't use Klaassen. Of course, Arnautovic is supposed to be nearing a return. The team feels pretty deep at this point, and there's been so few slip-ups to start the season. I don't know. It's just a great feeling. This is honestly as good of an Inter-start to a season as I can remember, both in terms of like the on-pitch performances and the results. Because like sure, under Mancini, we had that great run. I forget what year it was, 2017 maybe, where we had all the 1-0s, but we were all sitting here going like, this isn't going to last. But the way we're playing right now, it looks good. It's producing results. We're top of the table. There's really no reason not to feel confident right now.
Yeah, and I'll just add one thing. Like I know some Inter fans, I could tell, their initial reaction, and I'll play Jay here a little bit since he's not here, to bring us all down to earth. But a 1-0 victory against Roma, missing half its starters at home, is not something to be super proud of. But I'll just counter that with, like we discussed, they were literally playing 11 people behind the ball the whole match. And we had a lot of chances.
Exactly.
And we were really unlucky. I mean, I will say one thing, man. There's nobody who probably hits like screamers that don't end up scoring because they're either blocked or they hit the woodwork more than Hakan. Like that guy is just so good at unleashing these wicked shots, and like sometimes they're blocked and other times they hit the woodwork, and it's just so disappointing because I just want one of those to go in so bad. And a lot of times it's at moments where like he could totally change the match. Like I forgot what it was in the Champions League last year, right? Where he had one that it was early in the match and it just bounced right off the crossbar. And then, again today, like that would have changed the game tremendously if he would have scored that goal that he hit off the crossbar. So hopefully one of those will hit, because I just want Hakan to score just an absolute rocket shot. And it's such a great feeling, and I'm sure he's waiting for it too.
Yeah, let's hope he hits one of those someday. But did you see the Augusta shot? That was quite a bomb. I think it was more close in the end of the match when we
right-footed too.
Yeah, that was a massive bomb. That would have been great. Great.
Did that take a deflection? I couldn't tell from the replay.
I don't think it did. I think it was like a very pure shot, because the ball wasn't even how do you say, rolling in that, or
wasn't rotating at all.
Rotating. It was like totally static in the air. It was I just love it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'll say about Augusto. He has a little bit extra to his game when it comes to being able to cut into the center of the pitch. DeMarco, obviously, he's all about that left foot. He wants to stay a little bit more wide. He likes to whip in balls, and sometimes he will make those darting runs in to the box as well. But Augusto will sometimes drive into the middle of the field, which it's nice to see, because it's not something that's necessarily natural for either DeMarco or Dumfries to do. And if he can start, being a legitimate goal scoring threat when he's cutting in, I think that adds a different dimension to our game. I agree with Andrew saying I think that our starting lineup at this point is pretty much set. However, if you were going to say there's one guy who maybe could start to shake things up, I would have to say it might be Augusto.
Yeah, he's impressed me quite a bit. I didn't know that much about him coming in. I know Miko and others were pretty excited with us getting him. I didn't know that much about him, but he's been really good, and I kind of like the fact that him and Fratesi are both much more direct kind of attackers. They play a lot more direct, and so it's a really nice change of pace substitution or a change of pace start when they play, because they're very different from the players that they kind of end up replacing. So it's kind of nice when you have someone who's a lot more direct and a goal scoring threat from that position and from Fratesi's position in the midfield.
I get really tired when we get into these ruts in our attacking game where we just try spamming crosses, and I feel like we're more prone to this than most clubs. Like when I watch other teams play, like I'll say Milan and Juve, they don't do this nearly as much as us, where they start spamming in crosses. And I think DeMarco is one of the bigger culprits of this, where he'll just continually pump balls into the box. And I was pretty fed up with him during this Roma game. I was calling for him to be subbed off. And then all it takes is one, though, and he puts a pretty sweet low cross in that Thuram's able to score. So I'm kind of ready to give Augusto a bigger chance. And if we want to, start giving him more minutes, I'm open to it, just because he changes up the way we play. Like Irfan was saying, it becomes a little less predictable. I feel like when DeMarco has the ball, you know what he's going to do with it 7 out of 10 times. It's just a matter of, can you stop it? Where Augusto, like that shot he pulled out of nowhere, I don't think anyone was expecting him to cut in on his right foot and blast a scorcher off the bar.
Yeah, and just two quick little tactical things that I took away from today. Number one, I feel like as part of our gameplay, and this kind of also it goes with what Andrew was saying as well about us sometimes getting into this habit of spamming crosses. I felt like we needed to play into the striker's feet a bit more, especially today. I felt like the Roma center backs were playing fairly loose off of Thuram and Lautaro, and I felt like when they were dropping a little bit deeper to come and interchange with the midfielders, that they didn't always necessarily have a center back on their back immediately. There was a little bit of time there, and I feel like sometimes we get into this habit of just kind of playing our pattern and not always picking our head up and seeing, hey, Thuram is actually available there. We don't always have to go directly from Mkhitaryan to DeMarco, who passes it back to Bastoni, who then passes it to Cherby, who, sometimes we kind of get into our rhythm. And sometimes I think that we do miss an ability to maybe hurt the opposition more through being a little bit more direct. And it's not there in every game. And actually, I don't think it really was there in the Salzburg game, which is what we're going to talk about next. But I felt like that was available today. And then also, if we are going to do the crosses, I would love it if we saw more low crosses. I felt like the low crosses were a lot more dangerous. It just seems like a better percentage chance that somebody's going to get on the end of it, or a defender's going to make a mistake. The looped crosses today were just horrendous. There were so many. I saw one from Lautaro. I saw obviously a few from DeMarco, and it was just really easy for Roma, especially with 3 center backs, to just kind of mop those up. So those are just two things I took away.
And all 3 of those center backs, I mean, Llorente is, I think, 6'1", Ndika is 6'4", and Mancini's 6'3". I mean, if you're going to lob, aerial balls in the box with those 3, you better have, Dzeko or somebody else in there who can handle those. So, Thuram, again, like you talked about, isn't necessarily great in the air in that front, but I agree. It's nice to mix in kind of interplay within the box and also some low crosses. And like we saw, that low cross was the match winner today.
So maybe to put a capper on our performance against Roma, just checked. So we have 25 points through 10 league games, of course, 30 points being the maximum. We've started better than this in our history only twice, with 26, since the 3-point era, of course. And the most recent time that happened was the Spalletti season, where we went I think we didn't lose a match until December, until we dropped a game to Udinese, and then the season kind of collapsed. So this is, like we said, as good of a start to a season as we've seen. I also just want to add that Irfan, you were kind of giving a little, playing the role of Jay, saying, hey, it was only a 1-0 win. Well, it was a 1-0 win as predicted by yours truly on the last episode of Jections. So you can bet if I'm wrong 6 predictions in a row, I'll tell you about the one time I get it right.
And of course, Roma was better served because that bum Mourinho wasn't on the bench, just doing my J part. You know what I mean, right?
What else can I do for J bits while we're here? So Mourinho's a horrible coach. We should have won by more, and Milan look great right now against Napoli. Does that just about cover it?
Yeah, that's it.
I realized match that I saw Jay was still posting on the forum, and so I was like, man, what time is it in Sydney, Australia? And it's like 6 a.m., man. I'm like, you're a madman. I love Inter, but he was up at 6 a.m. still posting on the forum, so props to him for that.
I complain when I have to wake up early for like a 9 a.m. fixture, and our poor Australian friends have to wake up at 2:30 in the morning for Inter games.
Crazy.
Let's talk about Salzburg. So, midweek Champions League, picked up a win. And now, if we want to talk about the Roma game being in doubt, this game was legitimately in doubt after Salzburg came back and tied it up in the second half. That was a much more challenging game than we all thought would be. But I'll start with you, Miko, because Miko, you had kind of predicted that this would be a more challenging game than the rest of the group thought. So what did you see in this match, and were you maybe not surprised by how much we struggled?
I don't remember that I predicted this to be a hard game. I thought that we should like trash them, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was far from that. I don't know. I think the first half was pretty bad. The first 4 minutes were totally terrible. They had this great chance at 4-minute mark, and Sommer got a great save. I think that was one of his best saves he has done at Inter. The low shot, and he parried it. I don't know. I think we were just bad at the first half, especially at the first half. We were like not ready for Salzburg's. They were like more active maybe than we thought. I don't know. They passed the ball pretty well in our like in the center lane with one touch passes. They managed to create these kind of opportunities or half chances at least. And in addition to that first chance in the 4th minute, what else? I think the second half was a bit better. We were looking for the goal. When was the penalty chance? It was at 64th minute. Yeah, and then Lothar had the goal cancelled. But yeah, I think this was the match we should have like trashed them. Just if not else, but for the goal difference, because it's totally possible it will go to the goal difference in the end. But let's hope not. But yeah, I wasn't happy with this match. Of course, the win is win always, but Mkhitaryan got subbed out, and at the halftime already. Except was it the yellow card? Then yeah, I think it was the yellow card.
It was certainly the yellow card. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he was pretty poor in this match. So yeah, Parella came on. He wasn't starting, and I think Parella was great in the second half. He had a poor Torino match, so he kind of took it back and showed what he can do. But yeah, all in all, it wasn't a good performance in my books.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty poor performance. Realistically, the good thing about this match was that we were able to get our rotations in. That's really what I took away from it. We knew that this was probably on paper the easiest game of the group stage. I don't really care whether or not the performance was spectacular. I mean, if we steamrolled them 4-0, that would have been fantastic. But for me, it was all about just making sure that we got the 3 points. And at the end of the day, the team did find a way to get that done while rotating players. And I think we were also looking ahead towards the Roma match as well. You can always see what that victory today meant to the players for the Roma game. So I think it's very true that we were probably looking forward already, even during the Salzburg match, towards that. So I think that probably had something to do with our performance as well. But yeah, not a great performance, but we got the 3 points. We are tied with Sociedad in the group to lead it. Benfica looks like they're pretty much out of it now. They would definitely need to pick up 3 points in the next match against Sociedad to have really any hope at this point. But it looks like it's going to end up being a battle for first place between us and Sociedad, and I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to the last match day. I've been very impressed by Sociedad and what they've done thus far in the Champions League, and I'm not surprised. I was actually pretty let down when I saw that we got them as our pot 4 team. I think they are a really good side. But yeah, in terms of the Salzburg performance, nothing to write home about. Got the 3 points and got on the road.
Yeah, I felt like in that match, I remember very distinctly how I felt during the first half of that. And, some of it's like just documented because of like posts and things, but otherwise I just remember it. And, I was happy to see some rotation, but I remember feeling in that first, 20 minutes or so that like, man, this rotation's just not working that well. I mean, Frattesi didn't look that great in the beginning of that match, and I was missing Barella quite a bit. Sanchez also just didn't look that great. And I remember thinking, man, Mkhitaryan just needs to rest because he just looks like pure, like tired, just garbage. He did not play it well at all. And of course, Mkhitaryan and Sanchez then link up for the goal. And so I had to eat my words. But I remember, thinking that, it's nice that there's some rotation, but it's just not clicking very well. It looked very disjointed. I felt like we were missing a lot of opportunities. We were sloppy. And then their goal, I mean, again, like I don't understand why the defense just doesn't get tight enough. Sometimes it honestly just comes across as a little lazy. They get out of position, like they get dragged out of position. And then when they're trying to like run back, if the player has any sort of creative instinct, the offensive player, then they usually find somebody running in or somebody who's open, and they just make us look like a bunch of academy players on defense. So it's one of those things where I'm glad we got the win. I think it was a deserved win at the end of the day, even though we didn't play that well. The subs made a huge difference. I think Miko said, Barella played really well when he came on. And that goal that Lautaro scored was incredible. I wish it would have stood because of that offside call. It was taken away. But I just came across after that the game just not feeling that great, and mainly because of our defense. Like I feel like the defense just needs to get tighter, and they lose concentration, and kind of like they did against Sociedad. It's like you can't do that in the Champions League, especially right when there's so few matches. Like you just can't depend on that sort of stuff. So I'd like to see the defense just get a lot tighter and just be a lot more crisp and not give those opportunities. I mean, even if we struggle to score, Salzburg should not have scored on us. Like we should have kept a clean sheet in that match.
That was a rough week for Bastoni. Also had a really poor game against England as well during the international break. I don't know what's necessarily going on, but it seems like for some reason our younger Italian contingent has been struggling to kind of start this season. If you look at Bastoni, DeMarco, Barella, those have been really 3 of our underperformers. Not going to necessarily call them lazy by any means, or I don't know if it has to do with maybe the fact that, we made it to a Champions League final last year. They're very comfortable on the side. Inzaghi's not going to bench them. It's hard to say, but I have noticed that it seems like those players in particular have kind of had a poor start to this season. And Bastoni's form honestly has been worrying me a little bit more than Barella's, even though I think Barella's been spoken about more. And I don't want to give you guys any spoiler alerts, but all I'm going to say is that Jay is going to be really happy with how this Napoli versus Milan match is going right now.
This is a pivot, but this live table for the league right now is crazy. Like Milan's 1 point back of us, Juve's 2 points back of us, 25, 24, and 23 points. Like this is going to be one wild Scudetto race, you can be sure.
Yeah. I wanna point out the goal we conceded against Salzburg. I had to rewatch it today, and And it was like Irfan said, it was pretty bad. It was like Bastoni was against like it was just weak defending there, and then De Vrij and Pavard got like they got I don't know what they were doing, but they were like covering the ground, and then there was this attacker running from the back, and I don't know, should have been like maybe Hakan or Fratesi covering that run, or maybe Dumfries was there, but he was like totally alone on the edge of the box, and it felt a bit like the Bologna's second goal in a sense that there's a guy with the ball totally free on the edge of our box, ready to shoot. And I think we really need to do something about this issue of letting opponents having these kind of like chances out of almost nothing, because it didn't look dangerous at all when they lobbed that ball on the edge of our box, and Bastoni was there, and he didn't have a chance to get the ball, and they need to definitely do something about this. I agree with Irfan there.
It could also be that the Italian players are just feeling a lot more pressure because the national team is struggling to qualify yet again, and I'm sure that weighs heavily on them. And I know they're not necessarily the key underperformers on the Italian national team. They can't score goals really, but like it seems like that might be weighing in on them as well. I mean, Italy missing 2 major tournaments is pretty embarrassing, and so that pressure might be carrying over to the league as well. Because like Sterling was saying, I agree. I feel like even DeMarco and Barella and Bastoni, they've all been good, but definitely we know that they can be a lot better and a lot more consistent. So there could be something going on. I don't think it's because of this whole betting thing. I think that was one theory that people were putting out there. I think our guys are probably pretty clean on that, but I do think that maybe it's the pressure of like the national team just kind of sliding that might be the reason.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the Italian national team because I'll just be depressed. So let's not dive into that. From the group standpoint, though, like Sterling was saying, Benfica laid down against Sociedad. Sociedad's atop the group, and this really looks like a 2-horse race where the winner of the group is going to come down to that last match between Inter and Sociedad, and you really don't want to finish second in the Champions League group and give yourselves a theoretically harder pathway towards advancing. So kind of playing with fire here. You can't afford to drop points.
Yeah, maybe that was a good like a warning sign for us when we head to the Salzburg away game, at least, that then now the team knows that okay, this Salzburg, they're not like totally poor team. They can do damage if you let them.
All right, let's dive into Atalanta, since there are no Champions League week fixtures for us this week. We have the week off from continental football. So we go to Bergamo to take on Atalanta. Do any of you know offhand, so this is a Jay question for you, do any of you know offhand the last time Atalanta beat Inter?
Was Papu Gomez still on the team?
That he was. I was a little surprised by this, but it's been several years. Spalletti was
Spalletti time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Was it the 4-0?
it was 4-1 actually, as Cardi scored a
4-1.
penalty.
Okay.
Yeah, but
they like totally trashed us.
yeah, but it's funny because I think in our minds we have Atalanta being this banana peel team who we struggle against, but since Conte and under Inzaghi, we've actually done a pretty good job of a few draws mixed in there, but they haven't beaten us in close to 5 years now, 4 years. So tough game, not denying that, going to Bergamo, but one we should and we'll be favored to win. Irfan, you maybe want to start us off with a cap of it.
Yeah, Atalanta is one of those teams where, like you said, I feel like maybe mentally we give them a bigger edge than they've had on the pitch, but it's also one of those teams that, like, I also feel like we don't ever really look that great when we play against them. I know we've had a couple of dominating wins, and I think those have been good, but the games tend to just be kind of scrappy. And I feel like maybe we've given up a lot of late equalizers or something. I don't know. There's something about them that gives us like a bad taste in our mouth. But I think ultimately, we should go into this with the advantage. They haven't been that amazing this year. They've lost a lot of key players. So we should really go in and kind of play really well. I know it's an away match, but again, Bergamo to Milan, like how much should that really affect us? So it'd be interesting to see. I think the key thing will be, it's kind of nice that we get a week off, because I'm hoping with the week break, and then I think we play Salzburg again right after Atalanta, right? So hopefully that gives Inzaghi, the power to kind of start the starting lineup, because I really want to see our strongest lineup against Atalanta, because until Milan and Juve start dropping some points, I think we really have to be extremely careful in the league. So I don't want to risk anything. I want to go in there with our best lineup, and I want to get a good win against them, because I think they've lost enough talent and enough of their kind of reputation with us that we should be able to go in there confident and get a win.
Yeah, and they just don't play the same football that they used to. I mean, Atalanta, when they were in their pomp, when they had Papu Gomez and Ilicic, I mean, the way that they would just pick teams apart, I think is the reason why we always will have that mental thing with them, just because of the 4-1s. And that wasn't the only match where they kind of put us to the sword. And they were doing it to teams not just in Serie but even in Europe. I mean, you think about some of their results against teams like Liverpool, for example. So those are still kind of fresh in our memory. But yeah, this is not the same Atalanta. They just don't play the same carefree style. They're probably a little bit better defensively than they were back then, certainly. But they just don't have that same ability to score in bunches like they used to. But with that being said, I'm still going to say that we probably are going to get a draw here. I just have a hard time still predicting a win away there for whatever reason. My most recent memories of us playing away at Atalanta is just that game where Dzeko seemed like he missed 5 sitters, and we just couldn't get over the line and win that match. But I feel like this one has a 1-1 draw written all over it, and I still don't feel like that's a terrible result away at Atalanta.
Yeah, they haven't really replaced they haven't replaced Højlund that well, right? And then in those heyday,
hey, they signed Scamacca.
and then in their heyday, they had Gosens up and down that flank too. So yeah, they've lost some luster over the years. But Miko, what do you think?
Yeah, I was about to say that they've conceded only 8 goals this season in Serie A, but then again they conceded like 3 goals against Lazio. It was not the previous round, but one before that, and I think we should be able to punish them. I expect us to win if we have all week left to rest and train, maybe even train hard and not too much rest, but anyway to prepare for this match. So I think we are clear better than them, and we should punish them for the way they play. I think they always try to play not with the long balls, always trying to pass the ball on the ground, and I think with proper pressing, I think we should definitely punish them. I'm expecting a win.
Yeah, the Lazio game you referenced was capped off by Vecino scoring the winner.
Yeah, that was a great goal.
I don't know. It's scary having to play Gasperini, because it feels like the way he lined up would always lead to us struggling. But to Sterling's point, this isn't the same Atalanta team as years prior, and you expect a win, you need a win, given how close the table is, but you can't act like this is going to be easy. I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to predict an Inter victory just because this feels like a natural letdown spot. To my earlier point, I really hope we don't rotate. I would go full strength here, and if we really want to rotate rotate midweek against Salzburg, in the away fixture. Like, this is the match you need to use your strongest 11.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, and Atalanta, I mean, we can say we've had a good record against them recently, and we can say all this stuff, but like Bergamo away is probably going to be, one of the top 10 hardest fixtures on our list of league matches. So we can't underestimate them, and even if they've lost some players or they haven't looked that great so far this year, they know us really well. We know them really well. It's going to come out. It's going to be a cagey affair like it usually is. But I think we have that extra bit of quality that should be enough to get a good result, especially when we really need one. And like you said, Andrew, like if we're going to rotate, let's rotate against Salzburg and not against these guys.
I think we can maybe go around the room and do some predictions. Miko, you can kick us off.
I'm gonna go with 1-2 away win for us. How about you, Irfan?
Is Kamaga injured or is he playing?
I think he's playing. Atalanta haven't played this match week yet. They play Empoli tomorrow on Monday, but I think he played in their last game.
Okay, I'm gonna say it like Miko says it, like all the Europeans say it. So I want to say it right. I'm gonna go 0-2 with Inter scoring the 2 goals since they're away, and I'm gonna go Lautaro gets back on the score sheet, and I'm gonna give one to my boy Dumfries.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say 1-1, and I'm going to go with Gamaka and Lautaro getting on the score sheet for each team.
Wow. Sterling took my prediction verbatim. I can't do anything else with that. It was beautiful. All right. Well, I think we can wrap this episode up. The one note I do want to make is Inter did release their full year financial results this past week. We're going to put that on ice. We'll save that for an international break when there's a little less to talk about. But there was a lot of good stuff in there we can discuss. But yeah, I appreciate Sterling once again, you stepping in and helping us out this week. And hopefully we can get that win against Atalanta next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. Anytime.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, bye.